Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Askita Desha Tarane Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 6. Rama satisfies Shiva, text 25. Yayo Sura Striya Shatar Avaruhya Sva Dishyata Kudanti Pumsa Sinchantyo Bigaya Pati Karshita Yayo Sarastriya Shatar Avaruya Svadishnyata Vidanti Pumsa Sinchantyo Vigaya Rati Karshita Yayo Sarastriya Shatar Avaruya Svadishnyata Vidanti Pumsa Sinchantyo Vigaya Rati Karshita Yayo Sarastriya Shatar Avaruya Svadishyata Vedanti Pumsa Sinchantyo Vigaya Ratikarshita. Yo, in both which rivers, Surastriya, the celestial damsels, along with their husbands, Shata, O Vidura, Avariya, descending, Svadishnita, from their own airplanes, Kudanti, they play, Pumsa, their husbands, Sinchintaya, sprinkling with water, Viggaya, after entering the water, Ratikarshita, whose enjoyment has become diminished. My dear Shata, Vidura, the celestial damsels, come down to those rivers in their airplanes with their husbands, and after sexual enjoyment, they enter the water and enjoy sprinkling their husbands with water. Purport. It is understood that even the damsels of the heavenly planets are polluted by thoughts of sex enjoyment. Therefore, they come in airplanes to bathe in the rivers Nanda and Alakananda. It is significant that these rivers, Nanda and Alakananda, are sanctified by the dust of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, just as the Ganges is sacred because its water emanates from the toes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, so whenever water or anything is in touch with the devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is purified and spiritualized. The rules and regulations of devotional service are based on this principle. Anything in touch with the lotus feet of the Lord is immediately freed from all material contamination. The damsels of the heavenly planets, polluted by thoughts of sex life, come down to bathe in the sanctified rivers and enjoy sprinkling water on their husbands. Two words are very significant in this connection. Rati Karshita means that the damsels become morose after sex enjoyment. Although they accept sex enjoyment as a bodily demand, afterwards they are not happy. Another significant point is that Lord Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is described here as Tirthapad. Tirtha means sanctified place, and Pada means the lotus feet of the Lord. People go to a sanctified place to free themselves from all sinful reactions. In other words, those who are devoted to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, automatically become sanctified. The Lord's lotus feet are called Tirthapad because under their protection there are hundreds and thousands of saintly persons who sanctify the sacred places of pilgrimage. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, a great acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, advises us not to travel to different places of pilgrimage. Undoubtedly, it is troublesome to go from one place to another, but one who is intelligent can take shelter of the lotus feet of Govinda and thereby be automatically sanctified as the result of his pilgrimage. Anyone who is fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Govinda is called Tirthapad. He does not need to travel on various pilgrimage, for he can enjoy all the benefits of such travel simply by engaging in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. Such a pure devotee who has implicit faith in the lotus feet of the Lord can create sacred places in any part of the world where he decides to remain. Tirti Kurvanti Tirtani, Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, verse number 10. The places are sanctified due to the presence of pure devotees. Any place automatically becomes a place of pilgrimage if either the Lord or his pure devotee remains or resides there. In other words, such a pure devotee who is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord can remain anywhere in the universe, and that part of the universe immediately becomes a sacred place where he can peacefully render service to the Lord as the Lord desires. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dati Sva Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sri Advaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakavitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vrishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami Hari Priye. Panchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripasindubhyevacha, Patitanam, Bhavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yo Sarastriya Shatar, Avaruya Svadishnyata, Kudanti Pumsa Sinchantyo, Vigaya Rati Karshita. My dear Shata, Vidura, the celestial demigods, damsels come down to those rivers in their airplanes with their husbands. And after sexual enjoyment, they enter the water and enjoy sprinkling their husbands with water. Rati Karshita, whose enjoyment has become diminished. The damsels of the heavenly planets, polluted by thoughts of sex life, come down to bathe in the sanctified rivers and enjoy sprinkling water on their husbands. Ratikarshita means that the damsels become morose after sex enjoyment. Although they accept sex enjoyment as a bodily demand, afterwards they are not happy. So this is the nature of material enjoyment, and especially of sex enjoyment, which is so calledly or supposedly, but actually is the highest type of enjoyment in the material world. And correspondingly, it is the most binding of all material enjoyments. Many places in the scriptures, in the Shastras, in Śrimad Bhāgavatam, it is stated either by the Lord or by great personalities how complete and powerful is the illusion of sex attraction and how it completely blocks or inhibits one's ability to achieve actual self realization. And about the very fact, and about the point of it being an enjoyment, Krishna, in his teachings to Uddhava in the Uddhava Gita, says, uh, what is the opposite of enjoyment? Suffering. So this is the material, everything in the material, it's opposite. It's an enjoyment and it leads to corresponding suffering. Karma. As you sow, so shall you reap. The greatest type of suffering one can be implicated in is to be searching after sex pleasure. That's what Krishna tells Uddhava in the 11th canto. So there's a built-in kind of, what do you call it, reflex response. Like if you get, what is it? They take the thing in the doctor's office, check your reflex, you know, or knee-jerk reaction. It's actually a very nice engineered within the sex act that, okay, within the midst of this In one place in the fifth canto, it's described that lusty sex attraction is like a whirlwind or a dust storm, like a cyclone. You can't see anything. You're completely blinded by that lust. That afterwards they are not happy. You feel disgusted, or that you immediately the lusty thoughts diminish, and there's some sense of coming to your senses. Of course, those who are very much demoniacally inclined, they want to, in the second canto, describes that there's a pleasure coating on the genitals that makes that feeling so intense that one will give up all intelligent thought as to what are the implications, or it's hard to even imagine, because people accept abortion as they call it health care, women's reproductive health care. Uh, they'll even fight for it. There were just presidential pardons of people who were given long prison sentences for protesting the right of the unborn outside of abortion clinics. Just see how demoniac things have become. That this pleasure coating over the genitals, if it wasn't there, then people would not be inclined to have children and have families. Prabhupada describes that the um, pain of childbirth is so intense. Many times through history, we see women die in childbirth or thereafter. Even great personalities or leaders, sometimes it happens. Theodore Roosevelt, his first wife, died giving birth to their first child or daughter, who later became a famous personality. I forget her name. Anyway, so material nature doesn't spare anyone. Then Prabhupada describes that we have to do it again, have more children. Now, having children is the only reason to have sex. Otherwise, it's considered illicit sex and leads to, by pious activities, you can rise to become a demigod or damsel, demigoddess in the heavenly planets. There's even some places where your lifespan incredibly long, you always look youthful, and you can have engage in as much sex as you like, and you only give birth to a child at the very end of your life, and then you die. You tell that to people these days, well, that sounds like a great deal. Where can I get signed up for something like that? But it's all part of the process to ultimately teach us that this is not real pleasure worth desiring. And he also, another important point here is that they come down to bathe in the sacred rivers, Nanda and Alakananda. Just now there is Kumbh Mela. There's controversy. Is this, the media and perhaps Indian government, they're saying this is the Maha Kumbh Mela. But there's evidence showing that they were claiming that in 1954, 1977, 2001, even the last 12 years ago in 2013. Will the real Maha Kumbh Mela please stand up? I myself, if anybody knows what is the right one. Anyway, Or even some are saying that this every 144 year is also a makeup thing. That's just every 12 years is equally potent. So people are going there. They're so enthusiastic to go there and take bath. Actually, tomorrow, Amavasya, is one of the principal days to do so. It's on this spot, some nectar, some drops of nectar from the pot which produced from the churning of the ocean of milk by the demons and the demigods. And in their battle to obtain, to be who would be the one to get it, the Supreme Personality of God had appeared as the most beautiful woman. Krishna is already the most beautiful, but when he takes the form of a woman, oh, and bewildered the demons, so much so that they elected her. It's not that Mohini Murthy said, okay, I will be the arbiter in your argument, but they not only they elected and begged her become the decider or the arbiter in their argument. And she even warns them, Krishna warns them as Mohini Murthy, whatever I decide, you have to agree. And of course, ultimately, she tricked with sweet words, saying these demigods, they're very impatient and they're not as noble and heroic and praiseworthy as you demons. So let them have the nectar first, and then we'll then keep them calm, and then I will serve you. And out of fear, the demons, they're not afraid of starting an argument, what to speak of starting a fight with anyone for their own, but they were afraid of arguing with a beautiful woman and thus getting her displeasure. Just see how controlled by lust are the demons. Whereas one demon in particular was very intelligent, and that was Rahu. He dressed himself up as a demigod and sat in a line, like he cut the serving line at the Sunday feast. No, actually, they were not standing in line, they were sitting down. So he put himself in he sat with the GBC and the sannyasis. He didn't sit with the ordinary people. And Mohini Murthy could understand, engaged the Sudarshan chakra, chopped off his head. But in the midst of that, some drops of nectar fell on the tree Vraini. So everybody's going there to get liberation. Why aren't 40 million, actually, they're giving the statistic in 6 weeks, 400 million people. Why aren't 400 million people flocking to Krishna's temple? And we have like, what is it in Amritsar or Chandigarh? They're making at the Golden Temple, they're making chapatis, like hundreds of thousands. We could have like 4,000 people with buzzers and clippers shaving everybody up, and the ladies section, everybody getting a sari. Why can't we make 400 million people become Krishna bhaktas? That 400 million people are going to get liberation. Bathing in the Ganges and Yamuna, dumping their sinful activities, becoming purified. The sins have to go somewhere. How are they going to be neutralized? When Maharaj Bhagirath was told by Kapila Dev that the only way your forefathers, who had made a maha aparad to him in previous, however many generations ago, they can be delivered by Ganges water and nothing more. Well, how is the Ganges going to come to earth? So he performs austerities, Bhagirath, and ultimately Ganges, Ganga Devi has only one trepidation. Everyone will dump their sinful reactions in me. I'm not so inclined. And ultimately, when saintly persons come, they will neutralize the sinful reaction, and she comes into this world. Another significant point is that Lord Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is described here as Tirthapad. Tirtha means sanctified place, and Pada means the lotus feet of the Lord. People go to a sanctified place to free themselves from all sinful reactions. In other words, those who are devoted to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, automatically become sanctified. So devotees, or we who are aspiring or practicing devotees, must be very careful not to become enamored by that which is given rules and regulations, or let's say concessions, that if you do this, you're going to get this, and get all enthusiastic about doing it, and then you don't know what you have right in your hand, right here and there, is by far more superior to doing all of these extra things. The Lord's lotus feet are called Tirthapad because under their protection are hundreds and thousands of saintly persons who sanctify the sacred places of pilgrimage. And Srila Prabhupada very much hearkened and uh, followed in the footsteps and recommended and stressed the realization and instruction of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, a great acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, advises us not to travel to different places of pilgrimage. Undoubtedly, it is troublesome to go from one place to another, but one who is intelligent through Medasaha, those who are intelligent will take to the devotional service distributed by the Yuga Avatar and dedicate their time, their life, their wealth, their strength, and everything to the Sankirtan movement of that Yuga Avatar, Krishna, who has appeared in the Kali Yuga as the most merciful Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One who is intelligent can take shelter of the lotus feet of Govinda, Gaur Govinda. That is the name, beautiful name of Lord Chaitanya, to help us to meditate on how Gaura and Govinda are non-different. And that is the beautiful and exalted name chosen by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, to give to whom Srila Prabhupada immediately noted and understood would be one of his most remarkable and extraordinary disciples, that is Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. One can take shelter of the lotus feet of Govinda, and certainly here in New York City, where Govinda, Radha Govinda, have been pleased to make their appearance, we have that opportunity directly. And for us who are servants of their mission directly, living in the temple, at every moment we have that opportunity. We don't have to come from some other place. Of course, those living on the upper floors, especially the fourth floor, as they get older, they more can perform the austerity of traveling like other people do. It becomes more difficult as time goes, as you get older and your body gets more worn out, to walk up and down the stairs so many times a day. Which I see as kind of a tit for tat, because 40 years ago, when I was 25 years old, I would use the elevator when it was working for every move I would make. So now Anyway, we are waiting with hopeful anticipation. Anyone who is fixed in the service of the lotus feet of Govinda is called Tirthapad. He does not need to travel on various pilgrimages, for he can enjoy all the benefits of such travel simply by engaging in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. Such a pure devotee who has implicit faith in the lotus feet of the Lord can create sacred places in any part of the world where he decides to remain. And as the sacred place has a type of imperceptible and like powerful magnetic attraction, we were reading for the Sunday feast here the chapter, It Will Not Be Possible to Assist You, which chronicles Prabhupada's living in the Upper West Side, November into December, Christmas time, the blizzards of January 1966, a 1-2 punch January 22nd, and then January 30th, a total of, I have to look again, but it was almost like 2 feet of snow, 10-degree weather, 1966. There was a transit strike. That means no buses or subway for 3 weeks at that time. And it ended when the transit leader was jailed, had a heart attack, and died in the jail. State of emergency was called twice during this period. Prabhupada is walking back and forth. You think there's Dr. Mishra, who was a wealthy man with a penthouse apartment on Riverside Drive in a prestigious place. Okay, he doesn't want Prabhupada in his apartment. He could hire a taxi to bring him back and forth. He didn't do that. The chapter ends. These days of struggle were indeed real enough. And Prabhupada in that chapter, he met a Mr. Rubin, a retired subway conductor on a Broadway. You know, if you go there in Broadway, it has these little benches in the middle. Remember when we lived uptown, not the bar, there was a bench. All the folks across the street would sit on those benches and, you know, yak it up and turn up the music loud Friday, Saturday night. Anyway, so he was telling this uh, person he befriended that there are temples and devotees and books, but time is separating us from them. These days of struggle were real enough. Seeing him from a distance, a foreigner whose visa had nearly run out, yet he was in transcendental consciousness. Not a day went by when he wasn't engaged in pure devotional service, chanting, speaking to anyone who came to see him, uh, offering his food to Krishna, translating Śrimad Bhāgavatam. Yet at this point, it was unsure whether the people of America and New York City would take him seriously. But by and by, people came, and especially what amplified the tirtha of Prabhupada's presence was when he initiated the Sankirtan movement of congregational chanting in public. That created a transcendental place of pilgrimage. And that place we celebrate as most sacred. For anyone who is a devotee in line from Srila Prabhupada, visiting the place where the Sankirtan movement began, at Tompkins Square Park, is equal, if not more important, than visiting Krishna's holy places in Vrindavan and Lord Chaitanya's holy places in Navadvip, Mayapur, Bengal. We see just last week the two devotees from Amsterdam, Rati Manjari and Chicholeka. They'd been here before, but they had made a special trip in like one of the coldest days to pay their respects to the Tirtha at Tompkins Square Park. Implicit faith in the lotus feet of the Lord, as Srila Prabhupada did. So not only did he create the sacred place in New York, he created, it was predicted, September 1st, 1896. At the age of 70, this child will cross the ocean, become a great exponent of religion, and open 108 temples. And it's actually Srila Prabhupada is continuing to open temples. They just opened, had a grand opening in a place called Navi, Bombay, which is on the eastern side of Bombay. And I think even the Prime Minister attended. And with the devotees in New Delhi, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj opened up dozens of temples in New Delhi. And Prabhupada is expanding the Tirtha, the opportunity for Tirtha all over the world. He can create sacred places of pilgrimage in any part of the world where he decides to remain. And we were discussing yesterday in Prabhu Vishnu Prabhu's class from the seventh canto, Ideal Family Life, where Narada Muni is describing all the different holy places in India which are worth visiting. And Prabhupada describes that similarly all the places of ISKCON where particularly meant the deities of Radha and Krishna are installed. And Prabhupada had great love for the deities he installed in the most important cities of the world, such as New York, London, Paris. Prabhupada installed the deities of Radha Gopi Vallabha in Boston, the Radha Krishna deities, Rukmini Dwarkadish in Los Angeles, Sri Radha Kalachanji, the beautiful black moon of Krishna in Dallas, Texas. What are the Radha Krishna deities' names in New Mayapur? Krishna Balarama, the presiding deities, for example. So many places. And at the same time, in one place, I forget which, it was one of the prominent temples. You know, when Prabhupada came, devotees came with so much enthusiasm and so much hard work and everything just like, it was just ecstatic on all levels. And the devotees would go, Prabhupada, aren't the deities looking so beautiful? It's almost like putting words in, you know, if you say that to me or you, oh yes, they're very beautiful. That's what I should say, you know. What should I say to that? The deities are very beautiful today. Should I make an argument with you or should I, you know? So Prabhupada was very grave. Prabhupada was not going to say anything. Radha Govinda Madhava. That's right. Okay. Coming down to the wire here, and I better. Well, we're going on. If 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Let's have the hook and rip the vaudeville player off the stage here. You know. All right. So Prabhupada was very grave, and he said, "Yes, that is my anxiety. That now I am here, but after I'm gone, things will diminish." So where the devotee chooses to remain means there is a duty and responsibility. If everybody is just in the idea that I can pick up and go and do whatever I want whenever I want without personal responsibility, which also overlaps and is very much part of team spirit. Teamwork makes the scream work, makes the dream work. So implicit faith in this principle of devotional service. And just like Srila Prabhupada, he came here and underwent great hardship for us. Prabhupada is not asking us to do anything that he's not willing or has done himself and is done by unlimited multiplications more and more intense austerity than he's asking us to engage in. Prabhupada lived in New York City. There's no temple. There's nothing. He didn't even have a proper place to take a bath or to cook for 6 months. And even the first time he had a proper place to cook and take a bath, 94 Bowery, before 6 to 8 weeks were up, he was driven out into the street, like by a madman. And and where am I going to stay? Right now, tonight, I have no place. Michael Grant, Mukunda Marsh helped him. But first, before finding 26 Second Avenue, you had to stay for a week or so with a friendly person whose wife was dead set and adamant against him being there. Have we ever had anything like that happen to us in our life? Mostly not. So undergoing austerity, undergoing what seems to be difficulty for the sake of adhering to the mission is very, very important for devotees to actually solidify their faith and actually prove to Krishna that we're really sincere. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.